Santi here from the Beehive. This is National American Indian Heritage Month. I have a lot of American Indian in me, and I'm very proud to say that they have such wonderful spirits and teachings in the past, and a lot of that has come forward. I have a chief on me, which I consider my shaman, who partially I am, and here is a chief's necklace, beautiful necklace, made by the ladies on Dry Gulch from Etsy. I wanted to shout out to them because they make wonderful things. Just pick them out and they put them together. Well, anyway, we're going to talk about the American Indians today, and I'm giving you a little history. The Paleo Indians were sharing their traits in the beginning because of their Asian ancestors as well. Thousands of years ago, they came to the USA and through the Bering Straits from Siberia, and they lived very peacefully over thousands of years ago. They were family-oriented. They offered a lot of prayers in their existence with their family and others. They were very creative. They responded to nature and creatures and plants and the weather and knew how to talk pretty much and deal with everything. That's how they existed. The Europeans came and there was no more peace. And that was the problem. They brought discord, disease, and everything else to America when these people were basically among their tribes and they were isolated, enjoying their own ancestry and their own learnings. So there was no more peace. They were forced off their land. They were made to relocate. They had to fight wars to hold on to anything. There was a lot of bloodshed. They used fire and had domestic dogs in their daily lives. They had to travel the interior North America, and archaeology shows at that point in time, way back, there were animals that were mammoths, giants, very big ground sloths, and bisons, which we will talk about bisons and buffaloes later on. And they were all extremely big, like I said. The artifacts of stone and wood tools they used, and they made darts, that's been found. 11,500 years ago, the climate warmed up, and that's why the species, eventually those big land guys that were used to being in a cooler climate, they had to survive. So they went way up high into the mountains and they retreated into the highlands wherever they could go. Also, the plants and trees changed, and the birch and the spruce became highland trees, where in the beginning they weren't. They were down here. Indians planted along the Mississippi River, and they became very architectural. They learned to use their creativity for that and making tools and all those type of things. Also, the shamans knew how to use different things to heal people and to help them move forward in their spirituality. In the 1820s, 100,000 indigenous people were forced from their homes. At least 15 died. They were collectively all suffering. They were slaves, and the mistreatment and disease happened. A very, very bad president named Andrew Jackson called it the Removal Act. Removed the Indians, and they had to go without a lot of water and without a lot of food, and they had to go 5,000 miles and walk across the country. The greed took over by these Euro-Americans and our president, and they reneged on promises to the Cherokee, the Seminole, the Chickasaws, and the Chattahoochees. That was called the Trail of Tears, and of course it mainly involved a lot of the Cherokee. In 1916, disenfranchised from their land, they got sovereignty, dominating them to stay on reservations. They fought and they won on that one. There was no permission to leave, however, and at that time when they were able to stay on their reservations and fought through it, the children were forced into unfavorable boarding schools. And that led them to their ways and release of their religions and so forth that they had and their beliefs from their tribes and their ancestors. So they were forced to learn and to do other things. Some of those things sound very familiar. Do things ever change? I'm praying that they do. In 1968, civil rights came into being. This is called American Indian Movement and encompassed in the civil rights. It was helping the Indians in the ghettos and giving them more economic independence. It's a shame they were driven to the ghettos, like many people still are. Revitalization of the traditional culture they were allowed to do. Their legal rights were protected, their autonomy, and all their areas and restoration of lands were no longer illegally seized. They protect Alcatraz Island in 69 and 74. And they marched on there, and they marched at Washington in 1972. They stopped the exploration of the government over the American Indians. And I hope today that this continues and everything moves forward. And I do have a very good feeling that it will. Now, I'm going to pull some cards on our tradition, the American Indian heritage. I love them because they are so in touch with things. The first time I saw the commercial of the Indian crying at the river that was all polluted, that man had floated things in and didn't care about Mother Gaia and, anything on this earth. And I broke into tears, and I knew I had a connection. And then finally one day my father told me that I was connected, and my great-grandmother wore one big white feather. I was so excited, I couldn't believe it. And I felt so different about animals and things ever since. It's just amazing. I do not know how to get to my tribe or where to go to find out. Maybe someday. I do know my dad originated his family up there from the Iroquois, one of the branches of them. And the Iroquois were responsible for writing a lot of the laws that we used and stole from them and helped our government back then with good rules for the Constitution and fair rules. So, they just don't get enough credit. I'm glad that this month is doing that. They were also slaves. We've all been slaves at one time. All right. I picked out, the first card I picked out, oh my gosh, is Life Force from Mother Earth. It's the serpent, and it's the life force. Shed your old skin. Oh my gosh, and be awake. We're shedding the old skin, and we're going to have so much more unity and equality throughout this next whole millennium. All right, let me pick another one from there. Okay, let's see what we have. We have the medicine wheel. How appropriate. Okay. Events from the South are from the past. We should let them go, and so we can move forward. From the West, let the past go of toxic relationships. From the North, show passion to others and care for them and compassion. From the East, visualize your life. The winds of life come in from the East. And then have your cycles of life and nature and cosmos in your mind, in yourself, in your heart, all connected. From the East, I have a card. It is a yellow color. It is a chief, and he is brother to the hawk. I have a guide named Hawkeye as one of them. He is a very powerful spirit. I have talked to him. He has been in touch with me, and he is strictly amazing. And he wants you to know this today from the east winds and the color yellow. Possessions are many and varied. This is how we define ourselves. Even those unattached to worldly possessions possess knowledge attaching to ideas, experience, and a name. Does a man with a feather possess the imbued spirit of the bird, or does the bird now hold the man captive with the man's desire to obtain knowledge? Why, look at me with all my feathers and stuff. In truth, they are both possessed by the whole. The spirit and the rainbow continuing all of life. The me dissolves into a relationship to be and is to be related. The true self is one of infinity, and that's connecting to everything. Like I said a minute ago, you ask, why was I born? And your life becomes a search for these treasures. But the greatest freedom comes with a search for the truth, the true self. To find true fulfillment and beauty, understand your attachments, own them and accept them. Be proud of your accomplishments, then release them. Freedom comes when you're belonging no longer on your own. Wow. That is from my friend Hawkeye.